And it struck me, I mean, I think they're probably quite superficial comparisons, but there are parallels to be made between Alan Turing, as he's written here, and your sort of Sherlock Holmes, and certainly when he says politics isn't really my area. That's
he has blind spots, bless him, I guess, like Sherlock does. But no, I think, the only cross-section is that they're very smart men. I think, yes, there are times when he's belligerent, but he's and I suppose like Sherlock in a way, he's humanized into a position where he realizes he's only going to be at his best if he works with people rather than against them on his own. So that's part of the journey, but ultimately, Sherlock is someone who is sort of devastating in his intelligence in the sense that he's a sociopath and doesn't care. He has very low empathy skills. He doesn't care about anybody else, and Alan Turing really does. We see a boy falling in love with another boy. We see a man forming an incredibly close relationship with a woman that he cares about and loves deeply, but can't obviously, sexually acknowledge. It's a sort of polite way of putting it, but it's not in his nature. But he's on a different scale altogether, I think, from Sherlock as a character, and obviously he was a real man, and socially, I think somebody who was capable. Despite some moments in the film where we show him making transitions in groups and with other people working in different ways. But what I'm trying to say is I think, he's infinitely more polite and understanding and ultimately, a real hero and a quiet hero. That's the most important distinction. There's no soapboxing with him. He doesn't want to, he's not an extrovert like Sherlock, I think he is. There's a huge level of bravura and kind of showing off that goes with Sherlock's skills, and Alan, like a lot of the men and women working at Bletchley, was quiet, stoic, secretive, both in his sexual life but also in his work and what he achieved, as well as the other men and women at Bletchley Park.
So, I mean, this is, I guess, a film about many things, but it's about sort of the outsider and the idea that people on the fringes can sort of change things the most in a way.
Absolutely.
Is that an idea that sort of appealed to you?
Yeah, I think very much so. I think also, while it celebrates everything about him that is different and that needed to be acknowledged, and hopefully this film will sort of shine light on as well, is it's also a story about someone who was very, I think, conditioned by being a sensitive man in a world. He wasn't devoid, he wasn't sort of extracted on purpose, he wasn't isolated as a genius in an ivory tower. He was very, very in contact with the people and the environment that he worked in, which is borne out in his work, in his physicality, the fact he was an active homosexual man and an incredible athlete. I mean, like a marathon level, a marathon runner, but at Olympic level is what I was trying to say. And, those are things that put him in a bracket with a lot of other people. And I think what was he thought in a way which was extraordinary, which was incredibly lateral and, especially when it came to language, incredibly literal. But he brought us into contact with ideas, the sort of brilliant ideas that you think, well, of course. And that's something I think that takes a huge amount of connection to the world. So while he was different, he was ultimately, I think the positive side of this story is that, there was a huge connection with everybody else that would have said he was different, which makes him the same, if that makes any sense at all.
No, definitely. I just had to ask you about Hamlet. I think you said once that you'd been offered the role at school and you kind of didn't want to take it because you worried you'd get obsessed with it, or something along those lines.
It was A-level year, really, that was it.
Yeah,
I was really doing 4 A-levels and I had to even drop one, so I knew it was taking on way too much because it would have been in the summer term. But
You're getting obsessed now?
I'm very excited, yeah.